I've driven the 405 for years, never thinking twice about the barren hill above Mulholland. Then I saw the rusted hatch, wedged in the brush like a forgotten manhole, and everything changed. Beneath the LA sunshine lies a network of Cold War bunkers, radar pits, missile launch sites, fallout shelters, some sealed, some still humming. Most Angelenos have no idea they exist, so why were they hidden? And what's still locked behind those steel doors? I've pored over the front page of the Los Angeles Times for 26 October 1962 more times than I can count. The headline screams, "Sirens test today, prepare for attack." At the peak of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the city council orders every air raid horn in Los Angeles to wail at noon, just to remind 4 million Angelenos that Soviet bombers could appear over the basin with 15 minutes warning. My mother was 10, standing in line at a thrifty ice cream counter on Wilshire when the sirens started. She still remembers the clerk dropping a scoop of mint chip, staring at the ceiling like he expected it to open. Downtown businessmen sprinted to basements. Kids at Hollywood High ducked under desks polished smooth by nuclear drills. Behind the panic, county supervisors met in a sealed boardroom. Their conclusion was blunt. Hollywood, the ports, and the aerospace corridor made us target number one. Surface defenses wouldn't survive. Anything important would have to go underground, fast. Every postcard paints LA as sunshine, surf, and glamour, but the Soviets didn't care about beaches or movie stars. They cared about targets. By 1960, the county hosted Northrop, Hughes, Douglas, Rocketdyne, and the brand new Air Force Plant 42. Our freeways delivered missiles before they delivered movies. The Kremlin knew it. I found a declassified RAND memo from '59. Los Angeles Basin represents the densest aerospace production hub in the United States. Loss projections, unacceptable. In blunt military math, my hometown wasn't a city, it was a bullseye. Officials toured the Nike missile battery on San Vicente Mountain that winter. One colonel whispered to a supervisor, "Those 2 radar dishes are the only thing standing between us and midnight." The supervisor went home and signed an emergency bond. No debate, no press release, allocating millions for buried command bunkers and hardened radar control rooms. That decision shifted everything underground. The same Hollywood hills that hid dream factories would now hide blast doors, decontamination showers, and filtered air shafts, an invisible city built on fear, 5 stories beneath the postcards. I finally found the vote in the county minutes, just 3 faint typewritten lines from March 1961. Approved. Subterranean Command Facility, Santa Monica Mountains. 5-0. 5 yeses, 0 discussion, then they moved on to garbage collection fees. That's how Los Angeles decided to dig itself a shield. Within weeks, survey teams appeared on lonely ridgelines. Bulldozers carved switchbacks no map acknowledged. Neighbors heard dynamite at dawn, felt the tremor, and shrugged it off as roadwork. A company called Pacific Construction and Roofing filed the permits. In reality, it was an Air Force front with a single mission: disappear underground. I spoke with a retired electrician who wired the blast doors at Site LA 96C. He said they worked nights, hauled cable through tunnels that smelled of wet concrete and optimism. The foreman warned them, no cameras, no questions, no names on lunch pails. He still keeps the metal badge stamped top secret tucked inside his Bible. By '63, the bunkers were operational. Radar eyes restless, warheads fueled, crews sealed inside concrete capsules wider than any Hollywood soundstage. Above, Angelenos sunbathed. Below, young soldiers rehearsed the end of the world. I wasn't hunting Cold War relics that day. I only wanted sunrise photos from San Vicente Mountain. But 2 switchbacks past the overlook, I spotted a slab of rusted steel, half hidden by sagebrush. It looked like a manhole on its side, hinged, dented, painted military green long ago. I tugged. Nothing. The hinges were welded shut, but a palm-sized vent nearby still breathed a faint, musty draft that smelled of wet concrete and diesel. I dropped a pebble through the grate. It clinked, rolled, and never hit water. Back home, I opened a declassified Army map, LA 96C Nike Missile Control Site, right where I'd stood. The surface structures are a tourist dog park now, but the real control room, radar consoles, blast doors, emergency generator, lies 40 feet under that hatch, sealed since 1974. That discovery swallowed my sunrise hobby whole. If one forgotten bunker hides beneath a popular trail, how many others are scattered across the hills? Ignored by joggers, kept alive only by the slow exhale of stale air. Permission? Technically, no. Curiosity pushed harder than protocol. A week later, I returned with a borescope camera and a friend who welds. One careful cut, a groaning hinge, and we slipped inside, boots crunching on glassy dust. The blast corridor was cold enough to fog my breath. On the right, thick oval doors, still painted emergency filter room. I swung one open. Twin fans the size of jet engines stared back, blades frozen mid-spin. A stenciled checklist hung from a chain. Last inspection, 1973. The ink hadn't faded. Further in, the radar console room. Banks of dials, toggle switches, scopes. Every screen smashed, but paper logs still inside metal drawers. Carbon copies noting, Alpha battery ready, 0412. Someone had scrawled a smiley face beside the final entry and left a half-smoked Lucky Strike wedged in the ashtray. It crumbled when I touched it. Standing there, I felt claustrophobic time travel. LA above me, bustling with influencers and food trucks, while this frozen command post waited for a Soviet bomber that never arrived. The next breadcrumb led northwest to Rocketdyne's Santa Susana Field Laboratory. Official tours show outdoor engine test stands, but retired engineer Leo Alvarez agreed to guide me to the parts no brochure mentions. We ducked into a hillside hatch framed by oak roots. Instantly, the air tasted metallic. Leo clicked on a flashlight. Corrugated steel tunnel 50 meters long, once used to route RP-1 fuel lines away from explosive tests. Walls dripped brown condensate, trichloroethylene residue from decades of degreasing. Mid-tunnel, Leo pointed out a series of blast bulkheads. "These could isolate a fire in 3 seconds, he said, tapping the metal. "Turn this wheel and you'd survive." Maybe. The government decommissioned the site in '89, but the cleanup budget vanished. EPA placards outside warn of contaminated soil. Underground, no one checks. A Geiger counter in Leo's pack chirped. Low radiation, but real. We backed out slowly. Above ground, kids ride mountain bikes over that ridge. They have no idea a toxic Cold War artery snakes beneath their tires. Back in the valley, a janitor at an elementary school emailed me after seeing my radar bunker photos. His subject line read, "We have one too." Under Building C, a bricked-over stairwell led to a basement nobody used. He slipped me in on one Saturday. We pulled the bricks loose like Legos until a dark shaft yawned. I lowered my GoPro on a rope. The footage showed civil defense water drums stacked like blue coffins, metal drums of survival crackers 1963, and rows of hammocks still strung between support beams. The district maintenance log says crawl space, sealed, non-hazardous. The janitor and I know better. The kids in that school practice earthquake, duck, and cover, never realizing an entire fallout shelter sleeps beneath their feet. Just one more secret subsurface classroom the Cold War almost needed. I filed FOIA requests for every bunker coordinate I'd gathered. 2 months later, identical letters arrived. No responsive documents. Implausible. County Archivist Mara Valdez suggested over coffee that budgets, liability, and politics made those files too heavy to keep on the shelf. She let me see an uncatalogued binder, meeting minutes from 1978. One page read, "Cost to remediate LAB-12 exceeds public benefit. Recommend fill and seal." Another entry, radar site LA-32 classified as inactive asset. Retain files at contractor storage. Translation? Box it, bury it, forget it? Mara shrugged. If officials admit what's underground, they inherit the cleanup bill. Paperwork vanishes because concrete is cheaper than truth. Palos Verdes midnight. I'd heard rumors the old Nike launch pad still had motion sensors. Urban myth, I assumed. My flashlight beam skated across weed-choked concrete, then found a half-open personnel door. Inside, dust and silence, until my boot kicked a loose wire. A piercing klaxon detonated, echoing through the corridor. Red strobe lights, powered by what? I still don't know, flashed like angry ghosts. My chest thumped so hard I nearly dropped the camera. 30 seconds later, headlights crested the access road. A white pickup with private security on the door slammed to a halt. The guard stepped out, hand on his belt radio. "Site's closed," he barked. "Some of this is still classified." Classified? A base decommissioned 50 years ago. He escorted me off-site. No police, no citation, just a warning. Curiosity is dangerous out here. Driving home, adrenaline finally dipped, leaving only one thought. If an obsolete bunker still triggers alarms and armed response, something down there matters to someone. Someone who prefers it stays buried. The Palos Verdes alarm still rings in my ears when the county issues a press release. Several decommissioned Nike sites to be permanently sealed for public safety. Translation? More cement, less evidence. Civil defense history entombed beneath a slurry truck. But history isn't inert. Radar rooms sweat arsenic dust. Fuel tunnels still leak solvents. If we keep burying hazards without asking questions, the next sinkhole could open under a playground instead of an empty hillside. The real crisis isn't the bunkers themselves. It's the choice to pretend they never existed. Mara, the archivist, calls me back. She's found a 1966 maintenance order listing 5 bunkers never inspected after closure. Coordinates blacked out but readable under UV light. 3 lie beneath gated communities, 1 under a state park, and the last under an active freeway interchange. County engineers say budget won't cover excavation. Homeowners boards say no liability. Everyone waits for someone else to blink. That hesitation, that bureaucratic shrug, is the real failing action here. Standing on San Vicente Mountain at sunset, hikers snap selfies with the valley glowing gold, unaware of the concrete lungs beneath their feet. I trace the hatch seams with my boot. Steel is cold, but the truth it guards is still warm. Fear, ambition, secrecy, and the lives of 18-year-old radar techs who once listened for the end of the world. We could pour cement and move on. Or we could document, preserve, and learn, because a city that forgets its hidden skeleton can't know how strong or fragile it really is. Los Angeles built 200 civil defense structures between 1950 and 1975. Officially, only 40 are known. Let's crowdsource the other 160. Got an odd hatch behind your neighborhood? A bricked stairwell at work? Post the location. No trespassing in the comments with Nash or Bunker Watch. I'll cross-reference every tip with declassified maps and share the finds in our next episode. If you believe buried history deserves daylight, hit like to boost this story past the algorithm's threshold. Subscribe so you don't miss the follow-up deep dive. Next time, we'll open a fallout shelter rumored to sit under an active freeway off-ramp, if the padlock hasn't rusted solid. Bring a hard hat, a flashlight, and plenty of questions. Until then, keep your eyes open, your maps handy, and as always, keep digging.